Tonight I want to bring you a family favorite, and this dish actually comes from one of our favorite vacation spots. I'm going to show you how to make the Dixie Stampede's creamy vegetable soup. I've literally had this soup growing up my whole life, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I decided to make it for my family. It is super easy and comes together very quickly. The ingredients are pretty minimal with mixed vegetables, corn syrup, flour, butter, onion, garlic, some chicken broth, water. You'll see half and half here, but you're actually going to use heavy cream and salt and pepper. Now going back to the half and half and cream situation, if you want your soup to be thinner, you can definitely use the half and half, but the thick creamy vegetable soup is best when you make it with heavy cream. So the first thing I'm going to get started with are the biscuits that I'm going to serve alongside the soup. And I'm making my homemade biscuit recipe, and I'm doing sort of a restaurant variation. So Cheddar Bay biscuits essentially, but I'm doing it with my homemade biscuit recipe. So I've already preheated my oven to 400 degrees, and I'm just taking some vegetable shortening and I am putting it around the cast iron skillet. I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. There it is. And so I'm going to put it in that 400 degree oven because I want my biscuits, when I place them in that cast iron skillet, I want them to get a nice crust. So while it's in there heating up to get very hot, I'm going to go ahead and begin making my biscuits in my bowl. This biscuit recipe is on my blog. I will make sure to link it below. These are the biscuits that I grew up eating. My mom made them all the time and my stepdad, and they are the best biscuits ever. As a matter of fact, that's the name of the biscuits on my blog, the best biscuits in the South ever. We also have a nickname for them because they are so big and fluffy. They're called cat head biscuits, and I guess it's because they're not really shaped uniformly and they can kind of look like cat heads. I don't know. So anyway, I grew up watching my mom make these biscuits in her mixing bowl. And so I just put 2 cups of flour in there. Again, I'm going to link the recipe. You can get all the specifics. But I put the flour in a deep bowl, and then I push all the flour to the edge and I make a hole in the center. And in that hole, I'm going to pour milk and I'm going to put my vegetable shortening, and then I'm going to do a sprinkling of salt. Now I take my hands and I literally squish the milk and the shortening between my fingers in the well in the middle, or the hole in the middle that I created, until it's fully incorporated. So that shortening and that milk are totally combined, and there might be little lumps here and there, and that's okay. And then I use a circular motion in the middle of the well in the hole with my fingers, and I'm going to go around and around, and I'm pulling the flour from the sides of the bowl and incorporating it. I do that gently until all of the flour has been pulled from the sides and it makes a dough. And for our variation, we're adding cheese. Now, I am not a person who likes to measure. I just cook by taste and feel and texture and sight and smell. But because I'm trying to give you recipes, and I know that not everybody is comfortable with that, I did measure. So I'm adding a cup of cheddar cheese to the dough, and I'm trying to incorporate that cheese, but I'm doing it carefully. You do not want to over mix your biscuit dough. That will make them really tough and not fluffy. And about the time that I get the dough completely ready, it is time to take that hot cast iron skillet out of the oven and to place my biscuits in there. So what I do, I just eyeball the dough and I split that dough in half in the bowl, and then I split it again, and then I split it again. So I'm going to get, I believe, 8 biscuits out of this. There they are, and I just rolled them. My parents actually never rolled our biscuits to make them kind of round. They just really dropped them with a spoon and let them be free-formed, and I think that's why they turned out looking like cat heads. But the taste is the same, but I do roll them in a circle. Just, I don't know, maybe it's habit. It could also be the type A personality, the organized, everything needs to be the same, routine. I don't know what it is, but I do know that it makes me feel better. Look how beautiful they are, and you can see the flecks of the cheddar cheese. They're going in the oven, and it's only going to take 20 minutes to cook, and then at the end of 20 minutes, I like to turn on the broiler and let them get a nice brown color on top. So let's get back to this type A personality situation. Whenever I get ready to cook, I make sure that I have all my ingredients out. And what I was just doing there is actually putting them in order on the counter of when I'm going to use them. So the first thing on that lineup was butter and flour because I'm going to make a roux. And then I lined every other ingredient after that in the order of when they would be added to the dish. I have found that these little steps of organization help to keep the frustration out of cooking and make it a calm and enjoyable experience. So learn from me. Yeah, I've definitely done it the other way and I didn't like it. So the butter is in there and it is melting. I just showed you a shot of that. And now I'm going to be adding my flour, and we're doing this to make a roux. So I'm going to stir that until it gets incorporated, and it's going to make a paste. And you'll see once the flour and the butter have completely combined, it gets a little bit thicker. And like I said, it looks like a paste if you're looking for texture. This is the same thing that you would do when you're starting to make a gravy, but we're going to be making a blonde roux today. I don't want a lot of color. I don't really want any color at all. So I'm not trying to brown this. I just want to get all of that flour and butter combined, and I want to cook out the raw flour taste, which is only going to take about 1 to 2 minutes. So don't walk away too far or you might have a brown roux. There it is bubbling away. And after that 1 or 2 minutes, I'm going to get ready to add my water. I was just giving this a quick stir and just showing you. It's called a blonde roux, obviously, because it's blonde. You know, it's not brown or brunette. So if it starts getting dark on you, just know that you're going a little too long or far, but you can definitely still use it. So I added my water, and then I'm going to give it a good mix. You could use a whisk for this. Matter of fact, I encourage you to use a whisk, but my whisk broke and I haven't replaced it yet. It's one of those things that I don't think about when I make my Walmart pickup list. So yeah. Then it's time to add the seasonings. I'm going to be adding some onion powder and some garlic powder. All of the measurements and the details, of course, are on the blog, and you can check that out. And then next thing I'm going to add is going to seem kind of strange, but it's actually light corn syrup. And I don't know, but I know that it makes a difference. It gives a slight sweetness and a thickness, and you just need it, okay? Just trust me on this. Use the light corn syrup. And after that's incorporated, it's time to add the chicken broth. Now, I like to keep chicken base in my fridge. I love chicken powder, and that's what I'm using here. And that's how I make my chicken broth. I just put that in and, of course, incorporate it with water. But you can definitely use canned or boxed chicken stock or homemade if you have that. Totally fine, same thing. I just like to take these easy conveniences from the store, and they have a great flavor, so there's really no sacrifice there. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I open stock, I don't use it all, and then it has to sit in the fridge, and then it doesn't last as long, so I just like the powder. It's just better for my lifestyle. Now I'm seasoning with salt and pepper, and in a little bit, we're actually going to give it a taste to make sure it has everything that we need. You always need to taste your food before serving because you can make adjustments in the cooking process. So that's what it looks like right now. I'm going to bring it to a simmer. And while that's working, I just wanted to check the biscuits. I know that they take 20 minutes to cook, but it's always a good idea to check on things that you have in the oven. So I want to go back to the story about the Dixie Stampede. When I was growing up, we went to Branson, Missouri all the time. It seemed to be the destination for every single summer vacation. And it was that way with my mom and my stepdad. And it was that way with my uncle, who actually took me on a couple of his family's trips. And then again with our church youth group, that was the destination, and I can totally see why. It's super family friendly. There are a ton of activities to do that are wholesome and entertaining. There's putt-putt golf, there are go-karts, there's shopping, lots of restaurants, there are amusement parks, there's museums, and of course, the Dixie Stampede. By the way, right here I'm adding the frozen vegetables, and you can use whatever kind you like. You can see at the beginning of the video the ones that I used. I do have a tip in a minute for feeding picky kids with this recipe that I'm going to do in the future, so I'll make sure to tell you that in a moment. But my days of traveling to Branson, Missouri and the Dixie Stampede did not end as a child or a teenager. Here's a close-up shot of the soup. I'm going to bring it to a simmer. But actually, when I got older, my husband and I spent our honeymoon in Branson, Missouri, and then when I started having my children, we've taken them on several vacations to Branson, and they love it. And actually, I think this year may be a repeat trip to Branson. And we cannot go without going to the Dixie Stampede. And it's not just because the entertainment is great, it is definitely the food and the fact that you can get all of it in one place. And I have 3 children, and it's hectic and sometimes expensive. Look at those biscuits. And it's nice to be able to go to one place for all of it. Okay, so while I was telling you my story, I took a cup and I just melted butter and some garlic powder, mixed it well, and that's what I'm brushing on top of these biscuits. Oh my word, you guys, they were so delicious. And now back to the soup. So after it cooked and it simmered and all the vegetables are heated through, I am adding the heavy cream. Again, in my video, it is half and half, but don't do that. Use heavy cream, okay? Just trust me. So I'm adding that. It's going to be about 2 cups of heavy cream. And then I'm going to bring the soup back up to a simmer again. I want to show you the color change in the soup once you add the cream. So I just poured it in, and it's that blonde roux color. And then all of a sudden, it turns into this white, creamy soup. That is just beautiful. I don't know about you, but I love heavy cream, and I keep it to put in my coffee every morning. I think it's something that I will never be able to let go of. It just makes everything better. So I set the table, and I know this is a water bottle, but I'm actually drinking diet root beer. Yeah. But hey, if you put it in a water bottle, nobody knows, right? I called the family in for dinner, and so everybody is getting their drinks. I had already had the table set, so that was ready to go. I just get them to fix their own drinks. And I actually had some leftover Asian food that I cooked for lunch, and that's what my daughter wanted to have. It was enough for 1 serving. So she is getting a plate, and she was warming that up in the microwave. We are a sit around the table and have dinner kind of family, and I will always stand by that. It's incredibly important. It's what I did as a child growing up. I still remember the conversations we had. I remember the meals. I remember the way that it made me feel, the togetherness, and it's just a way to connect. Like, your children will open up and talk to you about a lot of things at the dinner table. Sometimes we get so much information that we actually have to tell them just to be quiet and eat every now and then. But in general, it's a way to check in on them and to be present. And food has a way of bringing people together. That's why most of our lives are centered around it. We said the blessing, and then it was time to dig in.